blood, steel, and survival. Life in battle in the medieval world. The night is thick with smoke and silence. 1,000 hearts pound in the darkness, each one wondering if it will still beat by dawn. Beneath rough wool blankets, men who once tilled fields or forged iron now clutch cold steel, their fingers trembling, not from winter's bite, but from dread. Hours ago, they marched through charred villages, past the stench of rot and ruin, past widows weeping in doorways. Now, they wait, listening to the distant thunder of hooves, the crackle of fire, the quiet sob of the boy beside them who has not yet seen his 17th summer. War was not glory. It was hunger. It was a disease. It was staring at death and not knowing which face it would wear. But still, they fought for land, for lords, for a name that might be spoken long after their bones turned to dust. The world 600 years ago was a crucible where every breath was earned, every sunrise a gamble, and from this forge of blood and hardship, something greater emerged: resilience, the backbone of what we call the modern human spirit. This is the untold story of medieval men beaten by fear, bound by duty, but unbroken. A world forged in hardship. 6 centuries ago, the medieval world was a brutal teacher. Europe's landscape sprawled with dense forests, muddy tracks, and fractured kingdoms. Survival was not promised. It was fought for. Born into a life of toil, most men and women never ventured beyond the fields they plowed or the villages they guarded. Life expectancy rarely crossed 40. A poor harvest could kill thousands. A harsh winter could end thousands more. For the common peasant, dawn meant labor. For the warrior, it meant uncertainty. Kingdoms rose and fell with a single sword stroke. Feudal lords demanded allegiance, and in return offered protection, thin as parchment, fragile as ice. Villagers lived under constant threat. Raids from rival domains, bandits on the road, taxes that drained the last drop of grain. Yet, beneath constant fear, there was duty, loyalty, a deep-rooted belief that surviving hardship was a sacred covenant with the world. To falter was to die. To endure was to be human. The scent of steel and earth. War rarely came suddenly. It crept, whispered in villages, echoed in mustering fields. Men summoned to arms gathered at their lord's banners, farmers beside blacksmiths, hunters beside sons of minor nobility. They trained not in grand arenas, but muddy clearings, swinging dull blades until muscles screamed. The armory was as diverse as desperation allowed. Some bore well-crafted longswords, others sharpened scythes repurposed from harvest fields, spears, pikes, axes, simple tools turned instruments of death. A knight, wealthy and armored in glinting plate, stood like a walking fortress. But most wore only padded gambesons, thin mail if fortune allowed. Steel had a scent, iron mixed with sweat, with fear. A warrior would run his thumb along a blade's edge, not in admiration, but in acceptance. This weapon might become his last companion. Before every campaign, there was a ritual, a muttered prayer, a final handshake, a glance toward distant homes that might never be seen again. Waiting for the storm. War was not constant motion. It was waiting, and the waiting was the true torment. Medieval camps sprawled like graveyards in waiting, tents made of coarse canvas, fires flickering under starless skies. Men gathered around these flames, speaking in hushed tones, trading stories to quiet their nerves. Food was scarce. Hard bread, salted meat, thin broth if supplies held. Horses gnawed at frozen ground. Men shared water that tasted of rust. The wounded moaned in the healer's tent, wrapped in bloody rags. There were no antibiotics. Infection was the unseen assassin. Between the crackle of firewood and the distant howl of wolves, silence pressed. The younger recruits played with dagger hilts, rehearsing thrusts in the dirt. Veterans simply stared, eyes hollow, faces carved with memories too heavy for words. Many had already died in their minds, bargaining with ghosts. In war, time itself was an enemy. Every hour before battle stretched like a lifetime. Sleep, when it came, was haunted. The battle's embrace. Dawn, a pale gray light spilled across the field. Mist clung low, as if the earth refused to show what was to come. War horns bellowed. Men formed ranks, pikes to the front, archers to the rear, cavalry poised like thunder on the flanks. There was no elegance, no choreography, only controlled chaos. Arrows screamed first, darkening the sky like locusts. Shields rose, many fell. The clash of infantry followed. A wall of steel and flesh collided. The air filled with metal shrieks, the crunch of bone, the roar of men neither alive nor dead, caught in some terrible in-between. A soldier's world narrowed to inches. The next swing, the next breath. Blood turned the ground slick. Horses reared, impaled on pikes. Bannermen fell, standards trampled underfoot. Orders dissolved into instinct. Some fought with rage, others with cold, eerie calm. There was no honor in the kill, only survival. Victory was not triumph, it was the right to see another sunrise. Strategy in the mud. Despite the brutality, medieval battle was not mindless. Strategy ruled the field. The shield wall, rows of interlocked shields, immovable as stone, spears bristled between them like thorns. To break it required courage and sacrifice. Cavalry charged, knights thundered forward, lances poised like lightning. Their impact could shatter lines, but a well-timed pike formation could turn charge into massacre. Commanders communicated with horn blast, banner signals. Every unit was a cog in a living, bleeding machine. In those moments, decisions carved destiny. Flanking maneuvers. Generals studied terrain, marshland, hills, rivers. A hidden advance through woods to strike from the side could unravel an enemy faster than a frontal assault. Diseases and despair. For many, death came not by sword, but by sickness. Dysentery, typhoid, plague. Illness thrived where soldiers suffered. Water tainted, wounds festering. Surgeons with bone saws, but no anesthetic. Camp followers, wives, children, herbal healers, moved between tents, tending fevers with poultices. Some lived, many did not. Bodies were burned, buried in shallow pits, or left to ravens when time forbade ritual. Disease did not care for bravery. A knight in armor, a peasant in rags, both fell in the same silence. The price of survival after the blood. When the battle ended, silence returned, but not peace. Survivors wandered among corpses, searching for friends, for brothers. Birds gathered first, black wings circling. Looting began, a grim necessity. Weapons taken, armor stripped, boots salvaged, spare cloth for bandages. Even the dead served the living in their final duty. Some wept, others knelt and whispered names to uncaring winds. Trauma had no word in it, but it lived in every haunted still. Men returned home as strangers, unnerved by laughter, restless in sleep. Only the fields, the plow, the routine of labor, slowly stitched their minds. The medieval warrior, the plague survivor, the nameless farmer whose calloused hands buried friend and foe alike. These were not relics of a darker age. They were us, stripped of comfort, facing darkness, but still choosing to rise. Their world was cruel, but it forged something unbreakable, the will to endure. And in every challenge we face today, every hardship survived, we echo their legacy. For we are the children of their fire, and within our veins, their battle still beats.